It's Patrick McDonald, and today on the podcast, we're talking with Chidi. Film me? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Good. So thanks for coming out.
Hey, no problem. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this is the Saturday before Ferrandi, so there's a lot going on and a lot of excitement in the air and a lot of excitement downtown.
Yeah, definitely hard to find parking too.
Well, I'm hoping that this view makes up for it.
Oh, it does. The view's nuts.
Yeah.
You got it lucky out here for sure.
Thanks, man. So we've known each other for a bit, right?
Yeah, I keep running into you at events. It seems like, I don't know, you're in every community type of event I've been filming at just, a handful of times. Just every time I'm filming, I feel like I run into you somewhere just somehow.
That's kind of the same way I feel about you. Is we ran into each other last year at an event for Seeds of Change, for this accelerator through UAA, or I always forget what it is, but I was like, there's this guy, he's got this rig, he's got a gimbal and a really nice camera. What's he doing like at this community type event? And then lo and behold, you turn out to be a filmographer, like doing this thing for real. Like this is your thing.
Yep. So I guess just diving into it, how I got started, really just started with my fitness journey, actually. So kind of grew up super overweight, was 310 pounds by the time I was 5th grade, I think. And then eventually got into high school and kind of realized that, it was in my control. Like I had some kind of power to change this. And so I joined football, started football workouts, got into that, lost 20, 30 pounds, over high school and kind of transformed a bit. But then once I had basically the summer after graduating high school was a real pivotal moment for me. Just got my own gym membership, really felt free on my own to fully kind of embody who I was kind of leading up to be. Got my own gym membership, started filming these workout videos in the gym with my friend, and that's really where it started. So me and my friend would just record each other with our iPhones, started an Instagram account to start to try to motivate people, to inspire them and document my journey and show what I was doing, how I was doing it. And people started asking me questions, and so I started making YouTube videos to kind of answer that.
So how long ago was that?
I guess technically almost 4 or 5 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm about to graduate, and it first kind of started before I got into college. So
graduate from UAA?
Yeah, so wait, sorry, repeat that.
Are you graduating from UAA?
Yeah, this May I'll graduate from UAA.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this since high school, just kind of as a way to help you with your weight loss, and then, putting it out, publishing it, kind of keeping yourself accountable. And it's evolved into the video company that you have now.
Exactly. So yeah, it started first off just trying to inspire people and document my journey, and now it's turned into my kind of full-time business / passion, I'd say.
When did it become your full-time business? What was the light?
Yeah, that's a good question.
When did the light go off? Sorry.
Funny enough, there wasn't a single point where I realized it was legit. Like, people say fake it till you make it. And 100% that is true. Like there's so many times I've went into meetings or went into networking events, talking to all these business people and potential clients, and just saying I could do things that I didn't fully know I could do. But that's really just part of it. You have to, kind of get yourself into those opportunities and then fulfill and deliver on them. Is the most important part, is to make sure you come through with it.
But I've seen your work, and there's a level of skill and talent. So in terms of faking it, you can't really fake the eye. Like you had to develop that over time. So you're bringing something to the table. You just maybe didn't have the technical understanding on how to execute it yet, but you have an artistry that you're starting with as a foundation.
I appreciate that. 100%. Like you nailed that. I could not put that into words myself, but you nailed that exactly. But kind of what I meant is a lot of people get, they're afraid to start. They're afraid to start something because they don't have it all figured out. They compare themselves and where they're at now to all these people they see on the internet who are already years ahead of them. And that's the problem. And I guess I had less of that and was willing to just go out there, search for opportunities, commit to things I didn't fully know how to do, and then just figure it out on my own.
Why do you think you were able to do that?
I'm not sure, just I guess I don't know if it was something in me. It's just mindset and Some of it could have played on my fitness transformation. That just gave me a confidence that kind of no one else can take away. Just knowing that I can work at something, fully kind of transform my body physically, makes me know that I can do the same mentally, and I can, work at something for years and years, and it's going to pay off.
Yeah. It takes so you keep saying your finish, what is it called? That when you said you finish transformation? Okay. Can you explain what that is to me a little bit?
Sure. When I bring up my transformation, I kind of mean what it taught me. A couple things: discipline, just working. There's this concept of delayed gratification, in a sense, kind of toward anything. Meanwhile, you're gonna have to put in the work up front. It's not gonna pay off immediately. And that was probably one of the biggest things I learned through weight loss, is because you're gonna have to diet, and it's gonna suck today. But tomorrow or next month or next year, it's going to pay off. You're going to see those results when you meet your fitness goal, when you're achieving, your dream body, whatever it may be.
So you're taking this time and you're putting in the work, and you're, just focusing on this goal of losing all this weight. And over time, you're, hitting milestones and getting to a point where now, like, you're in tip-top shape. You're boxing. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
You're like starting to, get into combat sports. And so you've translated that into filmmaking. And you've translated that discipline and knowing that you just got to keep plugging away at it until you get to where you want to be. And so I'm curious, where do you want to be? Are you there yet? Where are you going with this?
It's funny. That's such a good question. It makes me excited thinking about that, because so I was down in Miami a couple weeks back for the 10X Growth Conference. There was this one speaker. It's funny, I cannot remember his name right now. He's written a bunch of books. He talked about how most people look forward to a point in their lives where they're going to retire. And he talked about this point in his life where he realized that there's no retirement for him. That instead of looking at a day in the future where he's going to sit down and stop and just relax, it's more about how far he can go. And so kind of that really resonated with me. And so instead of looking at, where's the end deadline, look at life, like how far you can go. And so I really love that and kind of embody that myself. And so there's no finish line. And I realized that it's more of how much can I achieve in this life while I'm here.
That's a great outlook. And yeah, that means you have a growth mindset and that you're willing to keep improving over and over and over. You'll never be satisfied with where you are, other people think you are, or whatever. But for the people out there who are like, how do I start a media company? How do I get to a point where I now have my own thing and I'm employing other people? I'm making money off of this. This is going to, become my lifestyle and my income, for how I live. Like, it's 2019. You have a lot of clients now. Can you take me back a year? Like, what that looked like?
Sure. So almost exactly a year ago, I was just kind of getting the ball rolling, or at least going from that point I was talking about earlier, to where I was faking it till I make it, to when I realized like I've actually got some real momentum and actually built up some, real skill. Like, I started to see it. My clients were giving me feedback on projects and really loving it. And they love the new style I bring to the table. So that kind of made me realize I actually had something there. And so, sorry, your question again is, how do they get started? Or
so let's go back a year.
Sure.
Because right now you have a bunch of clients and you're making money. Right? You're net positive. Are you net positive?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things are good.
But I'm curious as to what happened a year ago, and like when you were just starting up, like, did you have to go out of pocket? Like, how did you land that first client, and then what followed after that?
I got you. All right, so yeah, I will go back a little bit. So, I was working a summer job, was saving up money, so still living at home. So I was able to spend. It was relatively good with money, so I was able to just save it all. And kind of, as always, entrepreneurship. So I knew I was going to use that money to invest in some kind of business. And so pretty much, I'm not sure the exact time frames, but I know there's a point around last year of this same time where I had maybe I'm not sure exactly how much. I had between $5,000 and $6,000 in my bank account, somewhere around that. I'm not sure what it was from savings. And basically, I took that and I invested almost all of it into the business. Like, it was kind of like a last resort kind of ditch effort. I'm not sure what it was. I was frustrated with other businesses that didn't work out previously, and it was like, this video thing, I think there's something here. I had a mentor who was like, pull the gun on it, let's go, let's run with it. So I took that advice. I went and invested in a bunch of equipment, dropped all these cameras you see around us filming today. It hurt. And I remember seeing my business. So there's this app I use that shows kind of a net worth. So it just shows, your credit accounts and credit lines and stuff like that. And it was negative. So I started out the year negative. In my bank account, my net worth was negative, didn't have really any money there. So I was like, all right, now it's time to make this thing happen. And so I went out, and the biggest things I did was, first of all, I networked very hard. So I was in there shaking hands. And second, I networked the right way. So a lot of people try to approach networking and meeting new people with figuring out as quick as they can what they can offer for them, if that makes sense. Like, they want to, if I was to meet you at a networking event, I'd be like, hey, I do video. Do you need video?
Right.
And that's
trying
not the
to
way.
Game me, come at me with what, like, you want me to sell, or you want to sell me something. I'm like, I'm not even in the right mindset,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was all about just building relationships. And so how I did that was I showed up to this 1 Million Cups networking event, and I showed up every single week. I showed up every week without stop. So people started to know me as Chidi, the video guy. Like, he might just be starting out, but he's showing up every week. He's a good guy. He's not trying to sell people here. He's just a nice, friendly guy who's trying to, start a business, basically. And so after going there for a month or two, I remember I met a guy named Nigel, who ran one of the Otis programs.
Yeah.
And basically he was willing to give me a shot. I talked to him. I'm not sure what it was about me. Maybe it was just him, and he was just kind of just such a mentor guy who saw something in me and wanted to give me a chance. But he gave me a chance with my first kind of real project, which was a project for $1,600. So I guess we got to back up a couple steps, because it wasn't my first official project. Before that, I had done one thing for a DJ. Was actually the very first time I got paid for a video. So I made this video for free. My friend told me to show up to the DJ event, film it. He knew I was getting to film stuff, kind of. So I showed up, filmed it for free. The DJ really loved it. Offered to pay me $50 for it to put it on his website. I was like, shoot, yeah, cool. From there, that DJ actually referred me to a dance studio. So that was my first official project, to where, like, I met the owners. I closed the deal myself. Didn't know what I was doing. I ended up getting them to pay me, I think, $150 for the video. Which is funny looking back at that now, because at this point I wouldn't do a video for $150 again, but it's all just part of the journey.
Yeah, when you're starting out, you're just trying to get anything, and
exactly.
So $50 is $50 more than you had yesterday. $150 is 3x return on the last video, so you're scaling, and up to the point where you are now, which is what, 700-800, just for a couple hours, right? Yeah. So you have to take baby steps. You can't just jump in the pool and make a big splash right away. You have to kind of come down the steps of the pool, wade in the water a little bit, and get, like what you're saying, do your networking and get people familiar with you, so that they're comfortable with you being there in that pool, in that atmosphere. And then they're like, oh, why don't we give you some opportunities, because we understand who you are as a person, we understand your skill set, and now it makes more sense, rather than you just like jumping in, doing the cannonball, and kind of disrupting everything with your skills and your talents. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff I like to reflect on and hear about, because everybody thinks it just happens overnight. No,
it doesn't.
It's a process, right?
Yes, sir.
If we go back to the origins of the process, this happened 5 or 6 years ago.
Exactly. And yeah, I completely agree. And kind of just to go back to, I feel like I didn't fully wrap up that question, but how I got here now, just distilling it down to a couple things. Networking was huge, to being good and being a good person to work with, being likable. There's this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best books I've read so far, just teaching you how to be a good, likable person, create, good relationships with people, network. It'll help with all that stuff. And then also actually delivering. delivering on time, on budget, being good at what you do. When starting off, you're not going to be the best, but you can always try to make every project better than the first one, better than the one before that, So if you're always growing, if you're always getting better, project after project, a year later, you're going to be in a lot better spot than when you first started.
Yeah, you're iterating. Because your skill set when you began is a white belt.
Exactly.
And then you get better and better, and like the more skills you gain, the more knowledge you have, like the more you're able to execute on your craft.
Yeah.
And so your point of reference a year ago, which was, just trying to figure out what the landscape was and trying to figure out who to talk to. Now you have that knowledge and that knowledge base to be able to just plug into it. You don't have to, do you still go to 1 Million Cups every now and then?
I want to start going back, actually.
Well, at least you started, right? And you showed up.
Yeah.
And so you have that understanding and mentality. And then when you got to a point where the showing up turned into monetizing your work, then you didn't really have to go to that anymore. And now you're, I guess, looking at going back just to, I don't know, make that connection again.
Yeah.
See what else you can do. But it'll be interesting because you have a much different knowledge base.
Exactly.
Back. You have a much different context.
Yeah.
And you can look at it differently than when you first started.
Exactly. I won't have to fake it as much.
Yeah. At this point, I think that, everybody understands like Chidi's the guy, or
I'd hope so.
Yeah. I recommend you to folks all the time.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would say one thing I want to just add in there, and another thing about kind of my industry, and I think that it was such a good fit in just timing of things. Just Alaska in general is kind of slow to new trends, I'm sure, as you know, especially in the video world, I feel like. And so no disrespect, there's definitely a lot of other video production companies that are doing really cool things out here. Shout out to Hybrid Color. There's some cool guys over there, Kyle, my boy. But there's also a lot that have been doing things the same exact way for the last 10, 20 years. You'll see those commercials on TV. You'll see them. They'll pop up on the, local news or whatever. And you're just like, yo, how did that get on air? And so that's kind of one of the things I set out to change. That's my mindset when I was starting the business is that I want to bring something new to the table. I want to bring these modern video production techniques, editing styles to the table and bring Alaska some kind of fresh new video production. And with that, sorry, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I'm just thinking you're right, man. I'm always a big fan of young lions coming up and making their way and stepping up into the world that already existed. In terms of Alaska, we are situated in a really interesting place because it's kind of like a closed off network of people, and there's people that live here a long time and they have a lot of deep rooted connections. And I'm a big fan of new blood coming in and trying to mix it up. So what I was thinking, and the look on my face was, I was going to ask you, what are you seeing that's different? Why are you trying to bring this modern spin on it, and what does that even mean? Like, I can speculate a little bit, and just, in the last 10 years, the emergence of smartphones, the emergence of this new media culture that we live in now, where it's more instant gratification through Instagram, and you can just like access everything on your phone, which that format hasn't necessarily translated to the old ways of shooting video or doing news or putting content out there.
Yeah, so a couple things right off the bat is kind of the first thing that comes to mind is just pacing overall, and just how with how short one thing I'll start off with is just how important digital platforms are now compared to the normal things like TV and radio. And so a lot of companies still aren't taking advantage of like Facebook advertisements, Instagram advertisements, and even things like Instagram story ads that are new things. And these are all the newest emerging platforms because it's where the younger audience is. It's where, and even my mom nowadays, I'll see her scrolling all day on Facebook. So even if my mom's sitting there on Facebook, it makes me wonder, even when we're watching TV, she's still scrolling on Facebook. So it's like everyone needs to go where the attention is. And a lot of people haven't realized that yet. And they're still spending a bunch of money on radio and TV when the real opportunity, in my opinion, is on the digital platforms and taking advantage of those. with modern video production. And so what that means, in my opinion, is kind of more faster paced editing style that's built around keeping the viewer engaged. And so I always try to start a lot of my videos off with some kind of hook, something that's going to catch their attention, and then hold it. And I usually don't make videos more than 60 to, even 2 minutes, unless it's like a mini documentary piece. And we've done a few of those. But it comes down to a lot of the pacing and the editing styles and flows. You want to make sure the viewer isn't getting boring and that the shots aren't just staying the same. Like one single shot of me, looking directly into the camera saying, hey, buy this product is not going to get someone's attention anymore.
Right. So you're looking at more of shorter attention span, shorter content delivery, injection, whatever it is that we have the ability to do because these platforms they've kind of limited us to that, right? They've kind of limited us to 15 seconds or a minute long, and you just Instagram is there's like a way to view it where the function is in the name. Instagram, it's instant gratification, gratification. So there's it feels like the platform has kind of pushed us in that direction. So at least what I'm hearing from you is that you're seeing attention go down a lot and that you're trying to produce content that fits that attention span. We're becoming goldfish.
Exactly. And another thing on top of that, so another direction. So right now, officially, we've operated as Move Media.
Yeah.
We're going through a rebranding. We're turning into, this is unofficial, I guess. I mean, it's okay.
You can break news here, man.
Yeah. Turning into Move Video Marketing. And so kind of what that means is offering companies a big downside, and something I've seen and experienced with my own clients is that you can make a really awesome video, something that looks really good, it keeps someone's attention, but if it's not crafted and if it's not implemented and utilized to its full potential, it's not going to get the results. So if you make, spend $2-3 grand on a super beautiful high production value video just to throw it on your website, it's going to do nothing for you. You're going to need to throw some money behind that in ad spend and get the most use. You need to maybe cut that video into a couple shorter snippets and like produce those and set them, schedule those to be posted out on Instagram and Facebook and then YouTube. And then maybe, even Instagram stories, work those in a bit there. So there's a lot of ways you can repurpose content, as well as need to be reformatting it for the different platforms.
So I'm hearing that you're talking about how you've kind of evolved your craft and it's been around filmmaking, and you've gotten it to a point now where you're trying to strategize what the best avenue for delivering the content is, the marketing side of it, but doing it in a way that's interesting and not just doing it because it's glossy and it looks cool or whatever, but making sure that your narrative is intact and your story is intact. It's interesting. To me is another thing that I think that you're pinpointing, which is we don't want, the car salesman standing in front of a TV with the wavy thing in the background and wearing like a kangaroo suit or something with all these bells and whistles. Like that worked in the 80s.
Yeah.
But now, we want some substance in some substance in our content. We want it to be authentic. We want it to really portray the life that we're living in, because who knows, all of this reality TV may have pulled us into this weird nexus of like, I want the things that are, that are feel real, feel comfortable to me. So yeah, I think the media part of Move Media is the ecosystem that you're playing in. Is, there's images, video, audio, text that the internet is made up of, but now you're actually strategically thinking about how to deliver that. So
exactly. And that's for a couple of reasons. The main one is just to get better results for our clients, really. Because again, back to the that's what people are doing nowadays is they'll spend a decent amount of money on a video, but then not, have the strategy to get the actual results and maximum results from that video possible. And so that's kind of the long-term play for us, and kind of what I've been diving into a lot is just the newest video marketing strategies. And so really long-term, what I want to offer to a client is be able to sit down, look at what their goals and objectives are, dive into their target audience, make sure that's clearly defined for them, and then come up with a long-term kind of content strategy, which is going to include video advertisement that we're going to run kind of constantly to constantly kind of get new leads into the funnel, but then also provide them with monthly or weekly content that's going to be industry specific. So personally, you've seen it kind of a little bit on my YouTube channel. So I've been making things like top 10, tips for video production people or filmmakers or whatever it may be. And that's kind of the long-term play. And that's what I see video going towards overall, is that brands are going to be starting to move away from just having one major ad campaign and putting more money into creating a long-term content strategy, because the long-term content strategy is really what's going to connect with their target audience the best. It's going to create trust and then ultimately pay off more in the long term, because once you create all that content, it's constantly working for you around the clock. After that, you don't have to put any money into it. For instance, on YouTube, once you go and create a bunch of videos, once those videos are up public, they're going to be working for you around the clock, for the years ultimately, and just racking up more views and getting more people into the funnel.
Yeah, we live in a world now where everything that we make and put out in the world lives forever.
Exactly.
So, yeah, like what you're saying, I got contacted the other day about something I made 4 years ago because it's out there and somebody Google searched it.
Exactly.
So, in a lot of ways, it's quantity of content and just having a backlog of content over your evolution. So that way that people can access you later. If I have this saying, if you're doing cool shit, people want to know about it.
Exactly.
They want to access it and they want to access you. So if you have a history of cool stuff out there, then people are going to eventually find you, I guess, through it.
100%.
You were mentioning
Could we pause real quick
for
the cameras?
I'm going to keep rolling on my end.
All right, sounds good. Just take a second. You can still ask.
So for everybody that is wondering what's going on, Chidi also brought his video equipment along too. So he's doing like some video on top of the video that I'm making, which is amazing. He's enhancing and evolving my game as we speak now.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to give you a big shout out and thanks for hooking it up like this, man.
No problem, man. Things like this are so mutually beneficial, I guess. Aside from just sitting down with the cool dude I know from around the community, it's just help us both out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Where were we? We were talking about how you see business or brands evolving and like the longevity of the content and creating content. You have a breadth of different topics that you're looking into and or verticals, right? You have kind of a housing thing that you're working on now. You have just video production in general, teaching people how to do what you're doing. And then you've gotten in a lot of the, I guess, innovation, entrepreneurship vertical as well through UAA. Are those the main verticals that you're in? Or are there any others? Or I guess I'm wondering what the structure of Move Media is now. And then you said you want to keep growing it, but at least trying to define it now.
Sure. If you look at, what kind of industries and markets we work with now, I'd say about 30 to 40%, funny enough, is real estate. And that's because it's one of the things I started off in. So I've just been it's just been a constant type of video I've done over the past year or two. And so I've gotten pretty good at it, I would say. And so we ended up locking down a contract with a real estate team that is more towards the video marketing. So about half of it is property tour videos, which is something very valuable for them. It's virtual tours. We walk through with the cameras and helps them market the houses. So that's definitely something big that's growing off and real estate agents all over the world are realizing that people want videos of houses and that they help sell the houses. So that's about half the content. The other half is actually creating branded content videos for them. So it's exactly back to kind of the video marketing strategy I was talking about. We kind of analyzed what their target audience was. They said they want more. Listings, listing clients. So that means someone that wants to sell their house, because it cuts down the amount of work they do. It's just easier, more cost efficient, more profitable for them. And so basically we looked at that and looked at, all right, so what is someone who's going to sell their house thinking? What kind of video content could help those type of people? And a couple of things we came up with were things like top 10 tips to get more for your home when selling your home, So if someone's just on the internet generally and they're thinking about selling their home and they see a video of my client telling them 10 tips that is going to allow them to sell it for more, that's going to start building that trust. That's going to get them to like the page, to subscribe. That's going to get them in the funnel. And then months later, when they're ready to sell their home, guess who they're going to call? Of course, the person who's been providing value to them. So that's kind of the basic concept of what we're doing with the content marketing.
Yeah, it feels like this education or entertainment, right, are kind of the two avenues that you go down when you're creating content.
Yeah.
So if you can create edutainment and combine the education with something that's entertaining, then you're gonna hook potential clients down the future. So kind of just giving away the value and showing that putting yourself out there as a company is just to get your name out there, that you're not expecting anything in return, but people are going to remember that and they're going to create this association with you down the line. You're building a rapport with them.
Exactly.
And so that at least $1 ultimately. And some of the metrics that I'm hearing you talk about, or some of the impact, are dollar-based, right? At the end of the day, the companies that you're working with, the real estate companies, want to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool to talk about, or hear you talk about how you're approaching it. You're looking at their metrics too, right? And that's helping you drive the content. And I'm fascinated that you can be a chameleon about this. You can kind of shift with what your clients want versus like me. I would say, look, I have a vision for the kind of content that I want to create as an artist or a brand. You're like, nope, let's shift my ego away from it. Figure out what you want and what you need and what's providing impact for you, and that's what we're gonna make.
100%. I guess there was a point where I kind of realized I was making videos. Apologize for being sick. But I was making videos to look cool rather than drive results. And so that was a big thing. And it's something I see almost everywhere in this new day and age, where you can buy a nice Sony camera, you can slap a nice lens on it and make cinematic, quote unquote, cinematic looking footage and edits and sequences that look really cool. But at the end of the day, what results are they driving for the businesses and clients? And the thing is that there's just so many creators out there that are, looking past the fact that your clients are paying you to get results, not for a pretty video.
Right. We're filming this with an iPhone. So
exactly.
And that's in some ways intentional. I wanted to show that, you could, all you have to do is have a phone to do this.
Exactly.
In general, this whole setup is maybe $700 or $800 in terms of the microphone and the mixer and all that stuff. But going back to just the basics, it's just pointing a video at yourself and making something and putting content out there.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Like, I'm curious, since you do a lot of work and you're in school, like how you balance that.
It was a good question. I'm not sure. I wouldn't really call it balance. It's kind of not possible to balance. People like talk about balance like a perfect balance between school and work and personal life. It's not. Like, one area of your life is always going to be, kind of have to be sacrificed for another one to grow, in a sense. If I'm working 8-hour days on my video project, that might mean I have to skip a couple homework assignments, might mean I have to skip class, which I do all the time. I skip a lot of class to go to shoots, to be honest. But it just comes down to what are my priorities, and that's why I don't feel bad about it. Video production is my future. My college education right now is okay, and we can talk about that if you want my take on college, but I see, video production as my business. It's what I've been growing. It's my future. So that takes dominance over, going to a class or something like that. So that's what it is. There's no such thing in my mind really for balance. It's more like, where are your priorities? And then how do you want to act on those? And where do you want to allocate your time in order of your priorities?
That to me sounds like a college in itself. Honestly, if you figured out what you want to do and where you want to go with this, you started in college because maybe that was kind of what was expected of you. And over time, you developed your skills. You've learned and developed your skills, which is what college is about anyway, to, get exposed to all these new ideas and then try a lot of new things. And how old are you?
22.
22. So, yeah, this is the perfect time to take risks and try a lot of things.
Exactly.
And so, you've kind of created your own college, your own learning experience that is making you money. And whereas
yes, sir.
whereas college, you're paying money.
Yeah.
To learn all this stuff that's been prescribed to you.
It's such a funny point.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a good platform for you to start with, right? Because you're leaving the house.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what to do now. I'm on my own.
Yeah.
My parents have been doing everything for me, but or leaving the house, and I put it in air quotes because I live with my folks for a while. So leaving the house, like in terms of now you're an adult and you can do your own things, and make your own decisions, and so skipping class or doing assignment here or there, you're probably gonna graduate.
Yeah,
right? You're gonna get your degree. You'll have that requirement. You'll never have to worry about it ever again. You'll have proven that. And then you'll have proven that you can do much, much more. It's really interesting to me have you learned any entrepreneurship in college?
Nope.
And by entrepreneurship, I mean, can you learn about what it takes to make money in books or in classes?
Short answer, no.
No.
Long answer, I do have to give credit to a program at my university. So it's the Widener Property Management and Real Estate program. It's taught by a really awesome professor. It really equips you everything you need to get into the industry. So if there's anything...
I'm going to get you some water.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
To get in the industry. And so it just equips you with the skills to learn about property management and teaches you real in depth. So if you wanted to get into that industry, it's helped so much. But as far as entrepreneurship and starting your own business, that's been super limited, to be honest.
Well, tell me what are the things that you learned just by doing your own thing?
Sure. The biggest one right off the bat is, I appreciate it a lot.
Take that from me. Intermission, folks.
Some good water. So the biggest thing right off the bat is the realization that you have the power to control your own destiny, ultimately. Your day-to-day habits, decisions, choices, and work that you put in, just on a day-to-day basis is ultimately going to sum up to what you are in 5-10 years from now. So that's the first biggest thing. The second thing, just go out and do it. Like you don't have to understand everything. You don't have to be the expert first. You don't have to even, sometimes know what you're doing. But just trust yourself to go out there, commit to it, and then figure it out.
What about all the naysayers who tell you like what you're doing is dumb or stupid or?
To be honest, I've heard a lot about, like, you always hear a lot about haters, F the haters, all that. But to be honest, I don't know if I've been lucky, but I've gotten really nothing but support from people. I'm not sure there's anyone who's ever, looked down on me, at least to my face, or that I've heard of. Of course, there's, I will say, like my dad, it's so funny to just see, my dad was always like, focus on school, focus on school, focus on school, 100%. Like ever since I started the business and started, growing that entrepreneurial, side of me. But it's funny to see how his mindset shift. And it's also because I've been able to stay in school, I'm sure, over time. And he realized that I've been able to grow both and, achieve kind of both goals of getting a degree and starting a business at the same time. But at first it was like, focus on school. Now it's like I tell him I skipped class for a shoot and he's like, okay, good. Okay. But before he was like, oh, focus on school, focus on your degree first.
Right, because there's a payoff, right? You can prove that you did something with a degree. And now that you're proving that you're doing something with video, you have a product.
100%.
It's tangible, and people can be like, oh, okay, there's value in that. Versus if somebody was just like to walk up to you off the street and say, I want to buy a $4,000 camera and go shoot, landscapes in Joshua Tree and just, produce 8K video. And I'm like, have you ever done that before? No.
Yeah.
So there are those kinds of ideas, right? There's a plentitude of ideas that people have that they want to execute on. Try to shoot 10 seconds. Scale it down. People always want the biggest scale of the thing, right?
Yeah.
They want their let's take move media marketing to scale in 30 years, and you're like an empire, making $1 billion a year. You're an ad agency or a marketing company. That happens over generations.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for that. You can't just drop everything you're doing and then tomorrow have that.
100%.
And just listening to what you're saying, like, I already know it, just in your story and how you're talking about where it's evolved from high school to now, and then now to 5 years to 10, it's going to be much different. Like, you can't even anticipate what it's going to look like in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
You
That's
can
for sure.
Yeah. You're on it. Like, is this your craft?
What do you mean by craft? Do you mean like passion, like life? Is that what you mean?
Would you call yourself a filmmaker? I identify as a filmmaker. Yeah,
and that's a funny thing in itself. I guess there was a point for for the first year and a half, maybe even, I wouldn't have called myself a filmmaker. I was like, I make videos. That's how I'd say. But now I can definitely call myself a filmmaker because, I've come to a point where I look at some of the videos I've produced and looked at the story I've able to, kind of cut and distill down from maybe 10 interviews. So there's a project out in Buckland, Alaska. A client flew me out for. I was out in a rural native village of 400 people for 3 days to document a solar installation project. And I was pretty much tasked with, interviewing people from the community, people from this company that flew in to install this solar panel. And then just making a story of how it was going to impact the community overall. And when I sit down and finally, after kind of a week of just hustling and grinding it out because we were on short deadline, I sat back and looked at this project like, wow, like I made this. Like I crafted, 10 different interviews, all this other stuff, slap B-roll on it and create a story that tells exactly what happens within 4 minutes. And I was just proud of it. It's probably one of the most proud pieces, I've made to date. And at that point I looked at that and like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. Like,
there you go. So that was a milestone for you.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, it's funny enough, I associate myself even more so as an entrepreneur and a businessman as I do as a creative. So I think I'm kind of funny, like split personality to where I was almost like a businessman first. And then I saw video as an avenue or vehicle to get me to where I wanted to be and create a successful business.
Well, that's hard for a lot of artists who just want to do the craft and not have to worry about the business end of it. So I think you can't have one without the other. Well, you can be an artist, but you better have like a manager or something that will go get the jobs for you and find the money. So yeah, blending it together, you're an entrepreneur for sure. And what I mean when I'm talking about your craft is like this is something that you define yourself as is like your identity, and you know the business end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, longer term, I really love what I'm doing. Right now, I think the next step is really to build a team. First kind of next steps is, because right now I've just been operating, pretty much me solo full time. And then I have a group of kind of contractors I've hired out, on when we have 2 shoots in a single day, or if we have bigger projects that I have to work on, I'll contract a few guys to come shoot with me. But the next step is kind of building a team of editors, and that's pretty much going to cut my time in half, because if not, I spend probably more time editing even than filming. So if I can pretty much outsource the whole side of editing, I can either film twice as much or focus on scaling the business, with all that free time.
Yeah, I agree. Editing takes a long time. These podcasts,
I'm sure
they take an hour to make, but they take 3 hours to edit and then produce, and then 2 hours to render. So it takes a minute. Yeah. So getting that pipeline, establishing that infrastructure is, I think that you're right. That's the next step. I don't think you're right. You're right.
I appreciate it.
So that's interesting to me. Like, when do you get to a point where, you're doing everything, you're a one-man team, and then you're like, okay, it's time to expand. It's time to hire people. What is your business structure right now?
So just to answer that first question, I think is when you realize you have no free time, that's probably a point where you realize you should, get some help and hire. Either do that or increase your rates so you're making more profit with less time, or you just need to grow a team. But basically right now, we'll sit down with a client and we'll look at their goals for the project. And then after setting the goals, kind of coming up with a storyboard or rough creative, go ahead and film it. And by I say we, I mean I. So I'll meet with the client. I'll show up and film it, maybe with a couple other guys, and then I'll take it back to the editing suite and edit it all myself. And then we'll go back and forth on the revisions. So basically, 90% of the work, if not 100% on most projects, is me. Yeah. And so I need to start dwindling that number down into a team.
Yeah, you need to optimize your time because you've already got the skills to do all that stuff yourself. So if anything happens, it can fall back on you, and you're okay to do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to focus on more of the business end and growing stuff. So you're at a point now where you can let go of being in control of capturing the video itself. Yeah. You found some people that kind of understand what you want, and so now you're becoming a director.
Yeah.
What I always get confused, like the director, the producer, what's the delineation?
Funny enough, that's one of those things I still don't even know about, which is like, I bet some people will be like, this guy's a filmmaker, he doesn't even know like what a DP is or a director. And it's, it's just director overall is someone in my mind kind of controlling the overall kind of bigger picture vision for the project. DP is the director of photography, and they're the one actually pushing buttons on the camera. And then you got gaffers, which is someone's like rigging up lighting and miking up people. And then you have sound guys, which is someone just monitoring. So that's pretty much my extent of like a big production crew, and it's really all I need to know. It's funny how some people get so caught up in the details of things when really you just need to know what you need to know.
Right. I like how you put it. That's all I need to know. You don't have to know anymore in order to make something that somebody will pay for.
Exactly.
So we got about 10 more minutes. I wanted to talk a little bit more about your newest venture, which is boxing.
Oh yeah.
That's become some good content, but then just also like interesting in itself.
Yeah, it's a crazy world for sure.
How did you start that, and like just tell me how you started it and like what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, sure. So funny enough, boxing or fighting, I guess in general, was always something I was relatively scared of. So I was never in many fights,
Why?
I guess maybe I was big and people didn't want to fight with me, or I was just like nice and was cool with everyone. I would rather be cool with everyone than just make a bunch of enemies and, you know, fight with them. So that was kind of my take. I was just cool with people overall. Didn't really start anything trouble. There's a you know, a couple times in high school things almost came up, but I never got into a real fist fight really. So it was always something that I was like scared of. Like in the back of my head, I always questioned, like, if I got into a fight, you know, at this moment or just out town and in public or whatever, like, would I be able to handle myself? And so it was always something that kind of scared me in a sense. So I felt like, you know, just with the growth, with, you know, just having growth and like continuing to be better and push myself past my comfort zones, like that was like, it just made sense to like kind of, that was one of the obstacles, I guess, in life that I wanted to kind of conquer, or fear that I wanted to conquer.
Why was it? Did you ever feel like you were threatened, or did you somebody might try to harm you or anything?
I mean, yeah, not really. I mean, someone's like kind of is pretty crazy. I was taking tests in high school, and I guess there was someone next to me that really didn't like me. I'm not sure what it was for, but right before we were taking like a standardized test, you know, like the long, you shut down the whole day in high school for and take these tests. He stood up and just started punching me in the head. I'm not sure what it was, but I never punched back. If I could go back in time, I'll definitely punch him back.
Or you'd have more skill and you'd understand what you were doing, right?
For sure. But that was the closest thing to a real fight I've ever been in. But anyways, I was, have been powerlifting. So I've always had, like, since my fitness journey, you know, since I transformed and kind of lost all the weight, like, I've always kind of just had a consistent theme of just like pushing my athleticism in some sense, whether it's in the gym, powerlifted and completed it in powerlifting for a while. And then just kind of out of nowhere, kind of just got bored with lifting weights. Like, I'm not sure what it was, but I literally just stopped getting fun out of going into the gym and like lifting weights. It just got boring to me. And so at that point, I met another dude that went to my gym. That was part of a boxing gym, and I knew him actually from like middle school. So it was like, hey, you should come by sometime. And I was like, all right, you know, I guess this was that moment that I've kind of been waiting for, to finally like conquer this fear. So it just kind of made sense. Joined the boxing gym. And with anything, like, you suck at first, and but funny enough, that's one of the things I liked about it. Like, I knew that kind of going to the journey, I knew what I was getting into. I knew it'd be hard. I knew I'd get beat up. I knew I'd go through like blood, sweat, and tears, all that corny stuff, like actually happening, like actually like punch my nose in, you know, like sparring, and my nose was gushing blood, like it happens, like, and so. But I love the journey. Like, I love seeing myself going from like sucking at this thing to like, all right, so first couple weeks I got beat up, you know, just sparring. Like, you get kind of, well, no, I'll be safe. So my first month, towards the end of my first month, I had my first couple sparring sessions. And the first one went pretty decent because I sparred some beginners. So we were around the same, you know, but the second one, I sparred a guy who was actually training for his fight next week. And it was a crazy story. So basically, I come into the gym this day. I'm getting warmed up. You know, it usually takes about 20, 30 minutes to warm up. So I'm about 3 minutes into the warm up, and I'm watching these guys spar in the ring. I see the first guy spar. So he gets beat up and he quits, basically. Like, so there's two guys. One guy beat the other guy up and he quit mid-round. And then coach calls in another guy. He's like, jump in there, you know, get in there. They're sparring with the same dude. Boom, boom, boom. He's just beating him up. I'm seeing all these hard hits land. So the second guy quits. It's the same guy. So one guy's just beating up like all these dudes. And so they're just cycling through dudes. And he's just kicking their ass. After about the third guy quit, coach looks at me. He's like, Chidi, get in there. And I was just like, all right. So I get my headgear on, jump in there. You know, I saw how he was going fight pace, like real fight pace. And so I tried to match that. And of course, I was a month in. I wasn't conditioned. So I just come out strong and I just throw a couple punches. Like, one thing lands and it like awakens the beast in him. Like, if he was already like fighting, like, he went to another level. Next thing I know, I'm getting hit from every single angle. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm trying to throw anything back, but my conditioning was just bad. So it was like
you're a human punching bag,
literally. And so I lasted like half a round. One round ends. Halfway into the second round, I realized that I was not going to grow from this experience anymore from this point. Like, all right, I've been beat up. Like, this day, like, this round, I've been beat up. Like, anything past this, I'm just going to be, like, wasting brain cells.
Yeah, you're going to war. Like,
Exactly.
you only have so many wars in you.
And I literally, there was no coming back. Like, I literally, like, physically and mentally could not, you know, do well. It just wasn't beneficial. So I called it. So I was like, Coach, no, I'm done. You know, but I needed that. You know, I needed to feel what it felt like to get beat up, just get my ass kicked. And so from there, that instilled like a fire in me kind of. I was like, I'm never going to get beat up like that again. And so I started working, you know, 6 days a week. I started getting into the habit of going to the gym and really just loved seeing that process of just seeing, you know, week to week, me getting better inch by inch. To where now where, not that like, I'm a nice guy, which is like kind of a hard thing in boxing. Boxing is such like a savage, like barbaric sport, to where sometimes like if I land a hard punch on someone, I'll feel bad, you know, when some other guys like they'll be just like, you know, they're just like sharks in water. And so when I spar now, I'm kind of, I don't know what the word is, maybe empathetic in a sense, or I kind of feed off the other person. If they come hard at me, like I'll give it to them, like, you know, I'll reciprocate whatever want to fire they want to bring onto me. But if I see them getting gassed, you know, I'm not just wailing on them, you know, I'm showing them like, yeah, you can't like, I'm like nicely punishing them right. in a funny sense. So if they get all gassed, like I'll still throw punches, but I'm not trying to knock them out. You know,
well, it's sparring though. You got to be
exactly.
You have to be cognizant of where your sparring partner is, because if you beat them up now, then they're not going to want to spar with you again in the future. So you got to like give and take a little bit. So you're right, empathetic to where they're at, and you know you got your rounds in, you got your punches in, and next time it'll be a different story. So
yeah, I'm actually sparring right after this or later today.
Nice,
around 3 or 4.
Cool. I just want to kind of maybe pull it all together. It sounds like in a lot of ways you've been fighting, you know, for your weight loss and then building your company and now literally fighting.
Yeah, that's funny.
And it occurs to me that there is kind of the same thread throughout. You just have to, you know, suck at it at the beginning and then work through it over time. Until 100%. Eventually you're comfortable with it and you can call yourself a filmmaker, you can call yourself a boxer or whatever.
100%. That sums it up.
That's it.
We're all in our own fight at the end of the day, you know, kind of, I guess life's a fight and you just got to keep on throwing punches.
Yeah, man. Is there any last thought that you'd like to leave the audience with just in the last 2 minutes we have?
Yeah, I would like to say, do you mind if that camera switched off again?
Go ahead.
Real quick.
I would like to say we're at intermission number 3. No, number two. But this is an experiment, and we're figuring it out today on the podcast, which like Chidi is elevating the game here. So I think that,
I got it.
Like 2 more minutes, literally.
Yeah, I got it. So to sum it up, so I think we see a lot of one thing. So over the past couple of years since starting all this journey, I've had this just big push or passion or focus on personal development, you know, just overall, just trying to push myself and being the best that I can be, whether it's in business or school, or relationships or whatever it may be. And I'm no perfect person, but that's what I want to realize. And that's what I've realized myself, is that we look at all these super successful people and kind of idolize them in a sense and think that they're so different from us, but they're not. They have the same DNA we have. They have the same flesh and bones, and they can hurt and feel pain the same ways we can. And so I just want to show everyone, just tell everyone that every single person out there like has the potential to get the same results. It really is just going to come down to whether they're willing to make the same sacrifices as those people made, if they're willing to stick it out as hard as those people did for as long as they did, and whether they're willing to work as smart and hard as they did, because that's all it takes. And just working consistently over time towards a single goal, just having that grit to persevere through the ups and downs. And ultimately they can get the same results or same body or same goals or whatever it may be. And that's
good. That's a good note to end on. So I just want to say big shout out to you, man. Thank you for your time again.
I appreciate it.
I love what you're doing out in the world, and bringing a fresh new take to Anchorage in terms of media and just showcasing who we are and what we're doing.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. This is way funner. I realize that sometimes when I'm talking to people, I try to talk less. I try to have them talk more. Yeah. So it's funny to not have that filter and just be able to talk like as much as I want to.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what.
Well, yeah. Thanks for your knowledge. Thanks for your stories, man.
Thank you, my man.